Hey everybody, welcome to the Virtual Theater Workshop. I'm so glad that you are here. And I'm really excited to explore this adventure of what it will be like to be making theater together or making creative choices theatrically in a virtual way and in this way where I don't actually get to be in the virtual room with you. I'm sorry to be missing you, and I'm excited for the things that will become possible in the conversation that we're having across time and space. So as we begin, we're going to settle into a practice of breath. We're going to open and close each of our sessions with some dedicated space to breathe. And the purpose of that is to let us settle into our bodies, our minds, our spirits, where we are, how we are arriving in this session today. In the Glitter Goddess Collective, we open and close most of our offerings, most of our classes with breath, because we believe that it is really powerful to be in conversation with the same creative energy that has been flowing through the universe since the beginning of time. It's really, really radical and cool. So I'm excited to invite you into this practice of breath today. So I would invite you first to shift your posture. See if you can get your feet flat on the floor if you're sitting down, or you might take this time to lie down as well and give yourself space to rest and let that be your opening practice. But what you want is to get your body into a different alignment than it normally is, something that's a little bit more alert, a little bit more active, and a little bit more ready to receive and to play. So whatever that looks like for you, I would invite you to shift into that posture. And if it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes. If that's not comfortable or doesn't feel safe for you, you can keep your eyes open, but just keep what I think of as a soft gaze, meaning not looking at anything in particular, but just eyes kind of softly open. But I'm going to close mine, and you're welcome to do the same if that's okay for you. And as we begin to settle in, I would invite you to first notice that you are breathing. No need to change the breath, no need to shift it or make it more intentional. Just notice that air is flowing in. For me, it's flowing in through my nostrils, and it's going out through my mouth. Air is flowing in and out and in and out. And amazingly, our lungs know how to do this by themselves without us asking them to do it, and they do it all the time. It's a gift. And as you're becoming aware of this breath flowing in and out, I would invite you to pay attention to whatever kind of day you've had so far. Whether it's been a beautiful day or a stressful day so far, know that in this space, when you arrive for Virtual Theatremaker Workshop on Tuesdays and Thursdays this summer, you are invited to leave as much of that as you can at the door, and you are allowed to create a creative space for yourself in which you can feel and be differently. It's not always easy to do that. And if you are in the midst of a really, really tough day and this doesn't feel like the right time for this video, that's okay. And you can come back to it at any time. But if you are able to leave whatever has been happening so far today at the door, I like to actually talk to myself. I'll say, thank you. I'll give myself a little rub on the chest. Thank you for the day that it's been so far. I would like to ask your permission to leave it aside so that I can focus on being creative, on making new choices, on receiving and playing. So I invite you to do the same. Ask permission, if you can, to leave it. And when you've done that, you can take a few more breaths on your own, asking your body what else it needs to get centered and to be ready to play. And when you're ready, you can softly and quietly open your eyes if they've been closed, or more intentionally return your focus to the screen. Thank you. So glad that you joined me in that. So my name is Ben, and the pronouns you can use to refer to me are he, him, and his. And I'm an artist, an educator, and a chaplain, which means I have a job where people share with me some of their great hopes and their great fears, some of their big spiritual questions, and I get to serve as a guide in helping them explore those things. And I love that job, as I love my other jobs, because it really emerges from my love of theater. When I first started acting, I was 6 or 7 years old, and I didn't fit in. I knew that I was getting teased a lot in school, and I knew that the other kids, in particular the boys, didn't like me, and boys were really suspicious of me, and it was painful. I had a lot of pain in childhood around not fitting in, and theater and acting and plays were places where I could go to direct my energy and my curiosity about people, because I think I really wanted to understand, why are these people treating me the way that they are? What is motivating them? What are their desires? What are their fears? What has happened in their lives that they're carrying with them to this moment that is encouraging them to interact with me in this way? And that same curiosity about people is really the thing that has carried me through my entire life and career, and it's what I'm inviting you into an exploration of with me in the course of these 4 weeks. We're going to spend some time over the course of the next 4 weeks figuring out what kinds of stories we want to tell, what kinds of characters we're interested in embodying. And so I want to give you a sense of how that's going to happen. Since we have 4 weeks, I kind of laid out a list of the topics that we'll be exploring together. In week 1, we're going to start really just with working with ourselves. So theater is an artistic medium that is a visual medium. It's something that we see. It's also a physical medium. It's something that we have to use our bodies in order to tell stories. I think we forget that sometimes, because I don't know what background you're coming from with theater, and I'll be really curious to know if you're willing to share that with me on EdModo. But I know that in my experiences learning about theater in a classroom, we're often reading a play and then reading the play out loud, and then we say that was theater. But theater is much more than that, and theater involves using our bodies to tell stories and make stage pictures, things that people can see and get a sense of what is happening between characters and what's happening in the story. So the first step to that is really getting in touch with our own bodies, but also getting in touch with our mind and our heart, getting in touch with our emotions, our feelings, and saying, what is it that drives me to create in the first place? What are the things that I'm really curious about? What am I passionate about? So working with ourselves is the first step. Week 2, we're going to work more intentionally on working with others. And this is going to be hard because I can't see you, and that's a bummer. And we don't get to have a live interaction. But in week 2, we'll do some more work with some improv games that you can play with people in your family, or can play with friends when you have a chance to see them over distance, or if you're in the same quarantine pod, maybe you can play some of those games together. So here we'll be working on building relationships with other theater makers. In week 3, we're going to start working more intentionally with story and with character. I'm also realizing, it looks to me like this is backwards, which I love. I'm so into the idea that this is backwards if you're seeing it backwards. If you're not seeing it backwards, then that just means that my computer is a little wacky. But anyway, week 3, we're going to start working more with story and character. So we're going to explore different ways of getting into a character, inhabiting their body, inhabiting their voice differently, getting inside what's happening in their emotion. And we're going to be thinking about stories, the stories that move us, that really stick with us and that get us excited, are the stories in which characters change. That's what makes a really, really compelling, that's my theory. That's what makes a really compelling story, is a story in which characters change. And so we're going to move in our last week into creating change and letting it be, which is to say that to make theater could look like making a play and rehearsing it and performing it. It could look like making a really small movement piece that goes along to a piece of music that somehow tells a story. It could look like getting in the streets and protesting and using that as a form of theater that forces change to happen in our society. All of those and many more things are different forms of theater that we can make. And so in week 4, I'll be inviting you, and I'll be doing the same, to be creating pieces that we can rehearse and share with each other and create change and then let it be, which is to say, I made that, I feel proud of it, or I just feel okay about it and I'm letting it go and I'm moving on to the next thing. So this is a little picture of the journey that we're going to be on together. And in order to do that together, I want to invite us to create some guidelines for how we want to be in this experience together. And the way that I want to do that is with a structure called hopes and fears and agreements. This was taught to me by someone who is trained in a school of theater called Theater of the Oppressed, which is a set of theater exercises and games that are aimed at getting the audience to stop being just the audience and actually move into the action and become actors. And the way that the person, Augusto Boal, who created Theater of the Oppressed, sees that happening is in the society in which we live. A lot of us spend a lot of time being spectators, watching stuff that's happening and maybe feeling like, you know what, that stuff that's happening is really messed up and I don't want to be a part of it. But we don't do anything about it. We sit and we watch it happen and say, well, I'm not an actor. Those people over there are actors. And Boal and Theater of the Oppressed want to say, nope, that's not how it works. All of us have the capacity to step into the action and change the action at any time. So hopes, fears, and agreements is a way of entering into a Theater of the Oppressed space, which was taught to me by someone who knows that system very well. And I'm going to show you what's on my list of hopes, fears, and agreements for this session, and or not only this session, but the next 4 weeks. And I would encourage you, if you have a journal, or you could do it in a note on your phone, or any other way that you want to write this information down or just process it. I would invite you to also reflect on what are your hopes for this experience, what are your fears, and then what agreements will you make with yourself or with me to support the hopes and address the fears. So for me, I hope that people watching this video, like you, will feel empowered to make creative choices. That's my big hope, that you feel empowered to make creative choices in a really intentional and fun way. And I hope that I will grow in courage, and that this experience will inspire me to keep reawakening my theater practice. So I started acting when I was a little kid. I was very serious about theater all of middle school, all of high school, and all of college. And then after college, for a variety of reasons, I took a long break. And I'm just coming back to it in the last year or so. And it feels really exciting, but it feels really new still. It's been a while since I've been doing theater regularly. So I'm excited and hope that this will help me stay current in my theater practice. My fears. I fear that no one will watch these videos. I fear that people are going to find them really silly or boring. I fear having to look at myself the whole time while I'm making these videos because I'm like really judging myself the whole time. And I fear that I will run out of interesting things to do and say. I fear that my ideas are not good enough and that they're not interesting enough to hold your attention, and that you just will be like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. So those are my fears, which are really real, and they're like percolating in my body. I can feel them happening right now, but I can also feel the hope. And so the agreements that I want to make with myself in order to make this process happen are these. I agree to always set aside time in my week to make these videos with a clear heart and a clear mind. And that means resting really well. That means feeding myself well and making sure that I have enough energy to come to this space and do these videos. And I also agree to push back on the voice in my head that tells me all of my ideas are stupid. And I agree to try those ideas out anyway. Even if they are stupid, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have paper with you or if you have your phone nearby, to take some time to maybe pause the video after this and jot down your hopes, your fears, and the agreements you would like to make with yourself and with me to support the hopes and address the fears. And you can share those with me on EdModo if you want. So take a pause to do that. And then after you've done that, we will come back together and start warming up. Okay, cool. That is the longest we will ever spend with me just sitting and talking to you, because theater is an active medium, and so we need to get up and start moving and playing. So wherever you are, if you can get yourself out of your seat if you were sitting down, or out of your bed if you were lying down, and get into a space where you have a little bit, ideally a little bit of space to move and stretch. And what we're going to do for the rest of the session today is I'm just going to lead some basic warm-ups that you can always come back to whenever you're wanting to get a little bit loose and get creative. And we'll continue adding on to those warm-ups every time that we have a class, but we will be doing some kind of warm-up every session. And then the only other thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to show you my creative space, and I'm going to encourage you and invite you for your first exploration out of class time to do something to set up your own creative space. So we're going to get there in a second. But first, I would encourage you to just soften up your body a little bit. See if you can get yourself to bounce. So I'm just keeping a really soft bend in my knees that's allowing me to bounce. I'm letting everything sway. Give a sigh, another one. I'm going to start by rolling my shoulders. We carry a lot of tension in our shoulders. This is where a lot of our stress and sadness and anger lives. So rolling it out like we're rolling some dough gives us the space to have other feelings and have other experiences. So that's always a good place to start. And you can do the other way if you haven't done that yet. Don't forget to breathe while you're doing this. And you can isolate. So one shoulder and then the other. I can feel my body cracking in a variety of places. I don't know if y'all are old enough to be experiencing that yet, but when you're 30, that can happen sometimes. Good, let that go. Shake it out. We also carry a lot of tension and stress in our necks, so let's try and be gentle with this, but let's try rolling our neck to one side. Switch directions. Roll the other side again. Again, be gentle with your neck. Don't throw it around like it's not valuable to you. And the other way. Awesome. And we're going to do a couple of flop overs and roll ups. This is something that will help awaken our entire spine, so all along our back, all along our torso, and get us into an open alignment. Really, the work of creating physical theater invites us and requires us to be open, which is vulnerable. And we spend, I don't know about you, I know I spend a lot of time watching my shoulders like this. I spend a ton of time slumping, and to stand open is actually very uncomfortable for me because I'm not practiced in it. But that's where our best ideas are going to come from. So this will help us to get into alignment. So the first step is to pretend that you are picking apples off a tree. You can imagine the apples as you get them. Take a little bite. This one is a golden delicious. I can feel that crispness. And once you've done that, flop over. I don't know if you can see me, so I'm going to back up a little bit. We're going to flop over and try as hard as we can. I'm going to actually scoot this down so you can see me better. Try as hard as we can to let everything hang loose and heavy. So try, in other words, not to be holding yourself up, but actually just letting yourself flop and relax. Down here, you can shake your head yes, shake your head no, shake your head yes, shake your head no. And then, keeping a soft bend in the knees, I would invite you to roll up really slowly as you possibly can. If you think you're going slow, go even slower. The idea is to stack each vertebrae one at a time. So each of those little bones in your spine, letting them stack on top of each other very slowly so that they've had time to get into a new alignment. And when you get up, you can step back together, feel the difference in your torso and in your core, and then move your head to one side and to the other side. And an old theater teacher of mine always used to say that when you have done this exercise and you move your head from side to side, it should feel like you're turning a balloon on a stick. So I don't know exactly what I think that means, but I'm going to give that image to you and maybe you'll know what to do with it. It's a balloon on a stick. So let's do that one more time. Reaching up as though we're picking apples. And flop. As loose and as heavy as you can. You can swing a little bit this time, following the momentum of where your body wants to go, but keeping it as loose as you can, really leaning in. Shake your head yes. Oh, you could give a yawn if you're feeling that way. Shake your head no. Shake your head yes. Shake your head no. And very slowly, stacking one vertebrae at a time, roll up. As you go, tucking your pelvis under so that you're facing a little bit forward. Stepping together, feeling that difference in your spine. And like a balloon on a stick, turning your head side to side. Cool. Okay. This one might make you laugh a little bit, but it is important. Let's do a little bit of pelvis rolling. So you're taking your hips and you're just trying to get them to move all around. Whoa. And go the other direction if you haven't yet. We're just trying to get everything loose and ready to play. Cool. Rock from side to side. Awesome. And anything else that your body needs, you can pause if you need something. If you can feel that you need something else somewhere else in your body, you can pause the video and give yourself that. But the next thing I'm going to ask you or invite you to do with me is a shakeout. So this is something that I've never done to a screen before. It works really well when everyone's in a circle together, but I think it will still be a good thing because this really helps me get energized and it helps me keep my body loose. So what we're going to do is we're going to shake, and I'm going to scoot my screen again so that you can see me a little better. We're going to shake our right arm, or our right hand really, our left hand, our right foot, and our left foot. And we're going to do 8, and then 7, and then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then on 1, or like after we do 1, 1, 1, 1, then you have to make a big noise and take a big pose, whatever it is, and really commit to it, and then we'll let it go. Okay? So this is our shakeout. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Whoa! Awesome. Do you feel the energy flowing through your body? Do you feel it? Good. Okay. Whew. I'm getting energized. So we've done some body warm-up. Hopefully you're feeling the blood rushing through your body. And the other big part of our presence on a stage or when we're making theater together is in our voice. So we need to take a little bit of time, and I should have done this actually before I started my physical warm-up because I haven't done any of this yet today. So that's on me. But we're going to take some time to intentionally warm up our voices as well. So the first thing to do, since, as I mentioned earlier, we carry a lot of tension here in this part of our body, is just to give ourselves a massage. Our voices, like I was saying when we did our breaths to open, the fact that our lungs know how to breathe without us doing anything is really amazing. We also don't spend nearly enough time thanking our voice box and our vocal cords for giving us as much support throughout the day as they do. So take this moment to thank them. Say, thank you. Thank you, voice, for being part of me and for being part of the way that I project myself into the world. And these are right here, this space kind of below your eyes and next to your nose are where some of your resonators live. Resonators are parts of our bodies where our voice really vibrates and comes out. So when we're singing or when we're using a stage voice, these are good to wake up. You also have some resonators up here, so giving yourself just a massage everywhere. And open your jaw really wide and really small, like a prune. And then wide, like a lion. And small, like a prune. And I'm going to invite you to take an imaginary stick of gum. Start to chew. If you want to blow a bubble, keep chewing. Not enough. Take another stick of gum. A little more, so you need to chew with more of your face muscles And take the whole rest of the pack of gum. Put it in your mouth. And now you really need to use every single piece of your face to chew. Good. Spit it out. Let's do a couple of sighs. Another one. And a third one, the biggest one yet. Good. Yawns are super good for your vocal cords and for your vocal health. So if you can, try to make yourself yawn. It's not a precise process. So if it was hard for you to force yourself to yawn, I don't know exactly what to say to help you get there. One thing that I sometimes think of is I kind of think of there's like a little concentration of energy right at the front of my mouth, like right below my nose. And if I start there and just imagine the energy kind of whoosh, like parachuting out to fill up my entire vocal cavity, my entire mouth cavity, then sometimes that helps me to yawn. So keep experimenting. Keep seeing if you can get yourself to get there, because that's really, really good for your voice. Okay, take some lip trills. If that is hard, try zzz, zzz. And let's all do zzz this time, and let's vary the pitch. So let's vary how high and low our voice is going. So I'll do zzz. Try that with me. Awesome. And I was doing this a little bit, so I'm going to point it out to you because this is not going to be helpful for your voice. If we are noticing ourselves like craning up to get up to a high pitch or folding down to get to a low pitch, then that is one way that our body is telling us that we don't need to go that far right now, or we don't need to go that far today. So just pay attention to that it's not about doing the most extravagant big thing to impress everybody. It's actually just about letting your voice flow and do what it needs to do. So we're going to do a little bit of a siren. A siren is something that starts from a low pitch, goes all the way up high, and then goes back to a low pitch. And again, here I'm going to invite you, and it's not a perfect process, but I'm going to invite you to not do this to get to the low pitches and not to do that to get to the high pitches. Just go with what's comfortable, but maybe just a little bit beyond what you think you can do. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to use my finger to trace where I'm going to acquaint myself with the fact that this is a physical process and I'm actually initiating movement in my body. Here we go. Breathing in. Good. Try it with me. Breathing in. Good. And using some of that shaking energy that we had before. Good. This video is getting a little bit long, so I think I'm going to leave most of our other warm-ups. We'll keep doing warm-ups every day, and we'll add to our warm-ups as we go and do more things. I think for today, I'll just teach you one other thing, which is called Fast Five. And Fast Five is a really simple game that invites you to just list the first 5 things in a given category that you can. And try not to think too much. Try not to judge yourself too hard on what comes out of your mouth. Just let it come and let it flow. And they don't have to be real things. So I'm going to ask myself to list the first 5 types of cereal I can think of, and I'm thinking of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I'm thinking of Count Chocula cereal, and I'm thinking of the cereal that I would like to give to my hamster if I had one, and I'm thinking of cereal that is life cereal because it's the cereal of life, and I'm thinking of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I said that before, and that's okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to give myself a, this is ASL, American Sign Language, for applause. I'm going to give myself some love for coming up with my fast 5 and not judging myself too hard, even when I repeated the same thing for number 5 that I did for number 1. So that's a game that you can play with yourself. You can give yourself a category, or you can ask someone else to give you a category. So I'm going to invite you now to give me the first 5 types of outdoor activities you want to do right now. Go! And I'm cheering you on. I'm cheering you on because I know you're doing it. You're doing it awesome. It's awesome. It's amazing. And whenever you are done, woo! Give yourself a round of applause. Awesome. So that was our first warm-up. And you can always come back to that warm-up, pick and choose the parts of it that are most exciting to you, the parts that most help you get into your body. But now I want to do the last thing that I was planning to do with you today, which is to show you my creative space and invite you to create your own. Okay, so I am going to take you over to my desk area and show you my creative space here. So it's important to me to keep my creative space as neat as I can. I am not a neat person whatsoever, but I actually find that it's really helpful to me to try to keep things so that everything has a place to live, so that my creative mind and heart and energy are able to focus on bringing new things into the world rather than putting old things where they belong. I think of this old gentleman here with the white beard as kind of like my, kind of just a guide for me. He just always makes me happy whenever I look at him. And so I always place him in my creative space so that I can turn to him sometimes and say, hey, bud, I don't know what to do here. Can you give me a hint? And sometimes he'll supply me some wisdom. I have a jar here that is where I put a lot of my doubts and anxieties. So I'll take a Post-it note or another piece of paper and just write like, I feel really stupid today. Like this thing that I'm working on is really dumb and I don't like it and I just feel bad. And I'll put it in the jar and I'll just let the jar take it because it's not that useful to me to be feeling that way. I don't know if you can see this, but this says, I saw the promise of the future. And I like to think about my creative practice that way, that I am welcoming the promise of the future into my present moment. And then this is a little illustration of a lake in Montana. I've never been there, but it just looks so peaceful to me. And so I always love imagining myself in that space. So those are some things on my desk that help me feel ready to create. I also have some water. You've got to stay hydrated. Especially important when especially important when it's hot in the summer to stay hydrated. And I also have a candle because I love candles, and especially at night when I want to sit down and be creative, this really helps me make it a special moment for myself. So that's my desk area. And then I want to show you my music area. And you might see there's a sign back there that says trash only. And I took that sign from the dumpster outside of my freshman dorm in college, and I have kept it with me ever since, and I love that sign. And the reason that I love it and the specific function that it's serving in my music space back there, can you see my keyboard and my guitar? The specific function that it's serving for me is to remind me to put all my garbage ideas on the wall, because even the things that I think are trash, are actually the seed of something great if I am patient with them and I allow them to express themselves to their full extent. So I love that sign being there because it reminds me, yeah, all the good stuff starts with stuff that we think is trash, and like put it on the wall anyway, even if you think it's the worst idea you've ever had. And similarly, I have this clown lady here who reminds me to always take risks in my creative practice and always be bold and fearless and outlandish in my work. So with that, we are coming to the close of our first session. I hope it's been energizing for you. I know it has been for me. And to close, there are two things. One, I'm going to invite you to take a moment in your space, wherever you find yourself tuning into these videos. Take a moment to take a look around and see, what can you do for yourself? What can you surround you? For me, one of the ways that this works is I surround myself with things that I love, and I surround myself with things that inspire me, and I surround myself with things that I find beautiful. So that's one way to enliven a creative space, is to take all the things that are most inspirational to you and put them somewhere that you can see them and be energized with them and be in a conversation with them while you're creating. Another way to take care of your creative space is to just clear some space. If you have a lot of clutter around, like I do, I'm a really clutter-filled person. My life is really clutter-filled. Dedicate some time to clearing some space so that you can think and not be thinking about all the clutter, but be thinking about what you want to make. If you don't have your own space, if you share a bedroom with someone, for instance, this can be, a little touchy, but maybe you can have a conversation with that person and see if there's one corner or one little spot in the room that you can dedicate to your creative practice. So I would encourage you to just take a look around and take some dedicated time in the next couple of days to make your creative space a fun and inviting place to be. And if you want to share pictures of that with me, or just share how that process has been for you, or just what you're coming into this summer hoping to be able to do in that creative space that we'll be working in together, I would love to know. So please feel free to share that with me on EdModo. And we are going to close, as we always will, with a set of collective breaths. And this particular set of breaths, so just as we began our session with breath, we end with breath, and that helps us mark that we were here to play and to work together and to create, and now we're exiting the space and we're moving back into the rest of our lives. This particular set of breaths is something that has been taught to me by my friends Matt Garza, Anthony Andrade, and Trent Lee, who are artists in residence at what was formerly called the Isak Hopkins House, and is now called the House of Glitter Performance Lab. They are good friends and dear collaborators, and this is how they end all of their yoga sessions. So this has been a type of yoga for us, and I'm going to end our session this way as well. So returning to that same active, alert posture that we started in order to breathe. I'm going to invite us to take 4 breaths together. First, a breath for the ancestors that each of us brings to this space, and for the indigenous people that were here before colonization. Breathing in and out. Second, a breath to thank ourselves for our practice today. Breathing in and out. Third, a breath to thank others for their support. Breathing in and out. And fourth, a breath for the intentions and well-being of everyone in the virtual theater making community and in the PASA community this summer. Breathing in and out. The loving and creative human in me celebrates the loving and creative human in you. Thank you so much for being here with me. I can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.